Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's episode is from Am I the A-Hole? Story 1 is by McCrickle. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my selfish neighbor when my baby cries? I am the father of a 1-year-old toddler. Recently, she started teething as her molars have started to come in. First, it was the top ones for about a week, and then we had a week's break, and now the bottom ones are coming in. It's clearly causing my daughter a lot of pain, especially at night. Before, she was a good sleeper, but now it's been rough. She's been waking up around 1 a.m. and then 3 a.m. daily, screaming with her little fingers in her mouth. My wife and I have tried comforting her, bringing her in our bed. She sleeps in our room anyway, and her crib is right next to our bed. But normally, she likes to sleep cuddled up when she's uncomfortable. We've even given her baby Motrin to help with the pain, but she still screams for about 10 to 20 minutes each time until we're able to settle her. It's shrill, and it sucks. But there's not much we can do beyond what we're already doing. We live on the ground floor of a new condo building. It's made of heavy concrete and decently soundproof, but not perfect. Above us lives a single woman in her late 20s or early 30s. This is an expensive part of town in a new building, so we can assume she's decently moneyed. She also keeps her balcony door open all day and night and faces into the courtyard. She has been punishing us during the day by blasting loud music directly into our unit by putting a stereo next to her balcony. We're on the ground floor and have a fully enclosed courtyard, so it vibrates around. She's got great music taste, and my daughter will dance to it all day long. So while my wife hates her intention, I think it's worked out just fine, until now. Last night she came barging down at 3 a.m. and rang our bell 4 times while we were trying to settle our daughter. Motrin works for about 8 hours, so by 3 a.m. we have to give her another dose and wait through the cries, cradling her for 15 to 20 minutes for it to kick in again. My wife, a strong-tempered, petite woman, amplified by her first year of motherhood, wanted to go fight her there and then, but I said let's just concentrate on settling the baby and ignore her. I also didn't want to make the baby any more upset than she already was. So yeah, I just let her fume outside my door at 3 a.m. Am I the a-hole? I'm going to reserve judgment on this one, but I am going to say I don't like hearing babies cry any more than I like hearing a dog bark when I'm trying to sleep. That being said, it is kind of expected that if there's a baby, they're going through a teething phase, it's going to be painful for a little while. She honestly could get some earplugs or use a white noise generator. I always use one because any little bit of sound bothers me when I try to sleep. So there's things that she could do to keep the peace. She chooses not to. But I'm not passing judgment. I'm just saying what I prefer and what she could do. Apparently this person that posted this story edited out something that people down in the comments didn't like them saying. They talked about how this person was using daddy's money to pay for her apartment. And then when the comments kind of went off on them, they edited that out, which, to each their own. You can do what you want, but it's a little deceptive for your storytelling. Down in the comments by Merely Whelmed One, everyone sucks here. Your comments about her are awful, especially that daddy is paying her way. Her response with the loud music is childish. Is there a reason you can't move the doses of Motrin so it works all night? Maybe a dose at 11 p.m.? That would allow all of you to get much needed night's sleep. Also, I think they make cold teething rings to help with the pain. Try harder for you, your child, and your neighbor. Under that by Throwaway Parsnip 822. Also, go to a doctor. How is the baby screaming loud enough to disrupt someone else's life in a, from his words, pretty soundproof building? Further down in the comments by Donna Mage 1, everyone sucks here. She could be more understanding and the stereo thing is stupid and childish. But as a person without kids, why should she be awakened because your child is teething? Is it not her fault? But you seem to have no sympathy for her position. You even go as low to suggest her apartment is paid for by her daddy instead of her, which seems like low-grade passive-aggressive insult. I'm not suggesting that you should somehow force your child to stop crying, nor am I suggesting that you're doing anything wrong. Teething is a normal part of child development, but that doesn't mean your choice to have a child should infringe on other people's choice to get a good night's sleep. Why not go knock on her door and apologize for the nighttime crying? In fact, I would knock on all your neighbors' doors and apologize. Your unit started this, so take responsibility for it. And then we have somebody commenting to disagree. By Branches Leaf, Honestly, thinking that no one should be inconvenienced by anyone else at any time if they're not causing it themselves is such a bizarre way of going through life. Living in a community with other people, you will experience things not of your own making from time to time. If you want to live without the possibility of being disturbed by a person who cannot help themselves, like a baby, you should live alone far from other people, not in an apartment building. Yes, they should live alone far away from people, not in an apartment building. But depending on where you're from, it's not that simple to find a cheap place to live that's not an apartment building out in the wilderness or something away from everybody else. It might just not be possible. Our next story is by Classic Effect 8633. Am I the a-hole for beating my parents to the chase and moving out in the middle of the night? I'm an 18 female and I overheard conversations with my mom and dad, 39 female and 40 male, about how they planned to kick me out shortly after my 18th birthday. The way they were talking about it seemed like they were dead serious, and the way it was brought up multiple times made it seem like they were going to kick me out too. So, I decided that I wouldn't give them the chance to kick me out and made plans with my friend Riley, who's 17 female, to stay at her place until I graduated and moved into a college dorm or had an apartment of my own. Riley's parents were horrified by the thought that my parents would kick me out the second I turned 18 and agreed to let me stay at their place as long as I graduated high school. Riley, her parents, and my boyfriend Cole, who's 18, came after midnight to help me take my belongings to their car and drive me to Riley's house. My parents woke up in the middle of this and asked me what the heck was going on. I kinda shrugged and told them I was moving out before they could kick me out. My parents tried to deny this and attempted to stop me from leaving, but there was nothing that they could do since I'm a legal adult. By the way, I wasn't going to just leave in the middle of the night without any goodbye. I already put a note on the kitchen table where my mom goes first thing in the morning explaining what happened. Right now I'm at Riley's house in their spare bedroom, and I've got bombarded with calls from my parents, asking me to come back and to not tell my grandparents about this. In one text, my mom called me an ungrateful B-word for leaving in the middle of the night, and that she should have kicked me out sooner. Why do they not want your grandparents to know about this? Given that they literally told you not to tell your grandparents about this, I would immediately go to your grandparents and tell them about this. There has to be a reason for it. You might as well cause a small drama bomb on your way out to figure out why they would not want them to know. It's really strange. But no, you're not the a-hole for doing that. If you're going to graduate high school, what do they gain from kicking you out early? Down in the comments by Fit or Fat 1999. My mom called me an ungrateful B-word for leaving in the middle of the night, and that she should have kicked me out sooner. Well, there's your hardcore proof. Calls from my parents asking me to come back and not to tell my grandparents about this. Are you close to your grandparents? Do you think they'd want to know? If so, you've got quite the collection of texts to show them, not the a-hole. And under that by Almost Christmas Now. Exactly. I was thinking Opie should screenshot both the should have kicked you out sooner and don't tell your grandparents messages, assuming the latter was also a message and not just a phone call, and send both to the grandparents. Our last story today is by Adventurous Catch 670. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom to leave my apartment in the middle of a family lunch? Hello everyone, I'm a 20 female and I just want some unbiased input since my family has mixed feelings about this. I just got a new apartment, finally big enough to host people, something I couldn't do previously because I lived in a shoebox-sized apartment. Because of this upgrade, I've been really happy and just wanted to share that with those close to me, so I invited my family to have lunch this past Sunday. Important to note that my boyfriend, who's 21, and I live together. We have lived together for 6 months now and have been together for about a year and a half. We're doing great and the future looks amazing and promising with him. I do see myself getting married to him. The issue came this Sunday. We were having lunch and everyone was having a good time, just what I wanted. My boyfriend had to leave because he was going to see his little brother's football game. After he left, my mother, who's 37, started asking if I could afford the apartment without him and if the lease was on my name. I told her that I could afford it and that everything was okay with the lease. She said, "Good, now I can rest easy." Now, normally this wouldn't be so bad, but she said it in such a snarky and passive-aggressive tone that didn't go unnoticed by anyone. Things at the table immediately got uncomfortable. I asked what she meant by that, and she replied with, Well, I assume you want to stay in this place for a long time. It is really nice, and I just want to be sure that when you finally decide to break up with your boyfriend, you won't have to leave. She has never been the kindest person on the planet. She hasn't been the kindest to my boyfriend, but at least not in front of people, and never like this. So I asked her to please stop saying things like that from now on, that it was mean. Of course, she had to make it worse by saying something along the lines of, "Oh, please, I just meant that you guys will break up when you finally get over the whole, I don't want kids mindset because he can't have any." For context, my boyfriend got a vasectomy this year. Also, I've been saying that since I'm 16 I don't want any children, but she insists on the whole, "You'll change your mind," as she believes that there is nothing greater for women than to be mothers. Her comment made me angry. Everyone around the table was uncomfortable. My grandmother tried to divert the conversation, but I wasn't having it. I got up from the table, asked her as calmly as possible to please leave, and went to cut the dessert. She said a comment about my temper and her not being able to voice her concerns, and left along with my father and sisters. Afterward, my grandmother said I was being rude, and that I know how my mother is and I shouldn't have said anything and just brushed it off. But my aunt agreed with what I did. My mother sent me a long text yesterday saying that she was waiting for an apology and that she won't visit me again because I was mean to her and made her cry. So am I the a-hole? Edit to add info. I said this in a comment, but she was very worried before knowing of his vasectomy out of the fear of not having white babies. My boyfriend is brown. My boyfriend is great. We have a very healthy relationship and he always has been polite and helpful with my family. He was very nice to my mother until he overheard her make a comment to a friend about, "He is handsome, but in a brown way." And after that, he keeps his distance. Rightfully so. There are, unfortunately, a lot of women in the world and men who think that the only purpose of a woman is to breed. If you don't produce a little one, you're not living up to your full potential in life. Not everybody wants to have children. If you want to, great, go for it. Have them. But if you don't, that's okay too. I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but people in high up positions in the world are like, nobody's having kids anymore. What do we have to do to get people to reproduce? What you have to do to get people to reproduce willingly is create a world that doesn't suck. Take some steps in that direction, and then people will start having kids when there's not poverty and mental illness and looming world destruction and everything else under the sun. As somebody who's actually a millennial, we don't really feel like the world has got much of a bright future. So it's not surprising that many, many people my age and younger can't even imagine having kids right now. Down in the comments by Tempting Penguin 369, not the a-hole, are some people unable to find conversation topics these days? Why is she bringing up your relationship and feelings about having children in front of a bunch of your guests? Under that by the OP, this is exactly what made me so angry. Like, if she's worried, that's fine, all mothers worry, but tell me in private via text or something. We have plenty of private moments where she could have asked about this, but picks to talk about it in front of the whole family. I was baffled. Under that by Poker Quilter, not the a-hole, your mom is rude as F. However, why in the world would you share with anyone he had a vasectomy? It's not anyone's business. OP replied to that and said, he told them himself once. My mom had said something about unwanted pregnancies, and he just said, "Oh, I'm snipped. No worries." I was shocked he announced it, but he said he was sick of my mother's comments about children. She does insist on this topic. And finally, by Ambitious Rub 2047, I completely understand his feeling of, God, please just shut up about this topic. Sadly, it seems that has provided her with just another way to nag about it. Our stories for today have come to a close. Different strokes for different folks. Until we meet again, you guys have an amazing day.